Welcome back to Weekly Winners. This is our 10th episode. We made it to double digits without getting canceled by the network. And it's a joyous day for us making it to that milestone, but also a somber day as we bid farewell to our sweet prince, Tim Tebow.
I mean, his block wasn't that bad, right?
It's preseason.
Like just getting the jitters out.
Yeah,
hadn't been in the league
right.
for 5 years or whatever it was.
Right.
Like
really puts life in perspective,
right.
Your own problems don't seem so bad when things like this happen. No, but what were I wish I would have seen the odds before this, like that he made the 53-man roster. It wasn't that good.
The only odds I know were the over under for like half a touchdown. The under was like minus 200 and the over was like plus 350 or something.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess that's not awful odds for him to make the roster. Like, doesn't mean he could have just been for like special teams, like
right.
But yeah, that again, we got the preseason finally. Couple news stories out of that. Like, got Fields looking good for a half a preseason game, and Bears fans just like
going nuts.
Yeah, an overreaction as everything is in the preseason.
Yeah.
So what was the quote he said? Like the game actually felt like slow to him, and that sparked the biggest reaction on social media, especially from former players who will always be quick to defend, no matter the league. That any young player, they got to go, well, what do you know?
Yeah.
But
it's like when all those old players were like, in today's league, I'd rush for 400 yards a game. Like
the biggest proprietor of that I can think of is NBA Kendrick Perkins.
Yeah.
Like everyone kind of he's kind of good at it. Like I enjoyed him on the NBA draft, even though after the top 10 he didn't know any of the guys. But he's he'll give a commentary, but he'll give a commentary on things he doesn't have any business giving a commentary on. But yeah, that's why people love him.
Yeah.
Only other kind of news story, I saw this just today, so I kind of wanted to touch on it. I don't know how real it is, probably not very, but people thinking about not a salary cap, but a salary floor in the MLB.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to I think episode 3 or 4 or something like that, where I was talking about the Rays and how they're so good for only spending 60-70 mil a year. But it's just because their owner is stingy. They're always so good, but you wonder, hey, if we go out and get one of these, 30 mil a year guys, are we a World Series champion?
Right.
And it comes down to the owner's content. Hey, we're making the playoffs every year. We'll make a World Series, once a decade, fine by me.
Yeah. So the number I saw was 100 million would be the floor,
which is probably about right. There's probably only about 8 teams under that.
So right? I looked, there are 12 teams under that. Indians, Orioles, Pirates, Marlins, Rays, Mariners, Royals, Tigers, A's, Diamondbacks, Rangers, and Brewers. Brewers are just under it. They are the closest.
Do you know how many of those are 90 and above though?
Not that many. Probably just the Brewers, Rangers,
okay,
and maybe the Diamondbacks are in that range. But the league average right now is 130 mil, which shows you how carried it is by that top. If you can have almost half the league under 100 mil and still have the average be at 130, I mean, the Dodgers spend double that.
I was gonna say
they're spending $250 million this year on.
The Yankees aren't far behind. They were over 200. I mean,
and the Astros are just under 200, I believe. So I mean, it's not even that much of a fix. You could force these owners to actually start to spend a little bit. That would raise the Indian salary by so much, and they'd still be getting outspent by like 250%.
See, I don't hate that. I think a better fix would almost be like just making the luxury tax like crazy expensive.
It's a step in the right direction. It's just it's crazy that like is it just because it's like baseball's so old? Like fans don't really care that much.
Right.
Like if an NBA team came like left like 40 million of the salary cap just unspent, like the uproar out of the fans and the media, like that would be unheard of. But the Rays do it every year.
Right. And that's if a team, doesn't even make the playoffs.
Right.
Where in baseball, you can have a team spend 70 mil a year losing the World Series, and it's like, oh,
right.
That's fine.
Yes, money's more of an asset in basketball where there are like, you can actually accumulate assets by taking on bad contracts. So at the very least, you should be doing that if you're not going to spend your money on good players. But yeah, don't get me wrong, it's a step in the right direction. I'd like it to happen if the other option is just nothing, but I think there's more that could be done.
Right. I mean, I guess baseball, the farm system probably plays into it too with the fans, because it's like, let's say, Mike Trout back playing AAA ball, when he's 19, 20, and they're like, oh, this kid's a stud, like maybe needs a year yet. Well, they don't want their team to go out and spend 30 million on, another outfielder, because it's like, well, in a year, Trout's ready. So the farm system might play a little into that as well, where it's like every fan of teams is just so optimistic about their team's farm system. Every fan has like 4 or 5 guys in the farm system they can rattle off and be like, it's going to be like household name in 2 years. Like
you have, but like, especially with how they control players' rights in the MLB, like that's not like in the NBA where you have like a Luka, where it's like you knew year one this guy's going to be a max guy, so you have to like start preparing. You can't spend that money because Luka is going to get a 300% raise in 4 years.
Right.
With how long you can control guys for cheap in the MLB, you have way longer to. And also, there's no cap. Like there's not really an excuse for not paying, for letting a really good prospect get away.
Yeah.
In the MLB. While we're kind of on the schedule, on the topic, I saw this tweet yesterday that just kind of in the realm that I wanted to bring up. Jeff Passan from ESPN tweeted this out. It was an article, but this was what would you do if he was commissioner for the day? Because he's got 8 things. I want to see how many for 8 do you think he goes in his changes he would make as.
Like how many I agree with?
Yeah.
Okay.
1, shorten the season. 2, expand and realign. 3, pitch clock. 4, robot umps. 5, end blackouts. 6, trade draft picks. 7, pay minor leaguers more. And 8, change the commissioner role. I've said that last one's pretty vague, but
yeah, I'll say I'll touch on the first 7.
Mm-hmm.
The last one's kind of hard. So salary of minor league players.
I mean that's an easy one to. People are going to like who's not going to support that,
right? But my thing is like, if I was an owner of a team, I would want to. Well, no, I guess, sorry. Minor league salaries are capped. You can only pay minor leaguers so much. So It should be raised. Because if I'm an owner, I want to pay them a livable wage, because some of those guys are making $10,000 a year.
It's so little.
Like, I want to pay them a livable wage, because right now you have guys in your farm system that are working at McDonald's on the side. It's like, no, I want them playing baseball all day, every day.
Even more than that, like, you're probably hoping they're working at McDonald's. You don't want them in the winter. They're like in the factory, like all of a sudden blow your back out or something.
Right. Yeah. So salaries, definitely agree with. I forgot that it was a set standard.
Yeah.
And then shorten the season, I'm not for, because it's like there's just such a hype around spring training. and there's such a hype around October baseball. Where do you shorten, the front or the back?
Right.
Like, I understand, like, they start spring training in like end of February. So I guess you could bump that to like March, early April even, but I don't know. It's just, it's not like you have guys, having season ending injuries left and right.
Yeah, my question
Like,
is for what?
right.
Like, is it because of injuries? Because then if you're like, oh, guys, playing this much, this often, makes them more prone to get injuries, then I think the target should be double headers rather than the overall length of a season.
Right.
So it's like, and
maybe that's what he means.
Is it just
maybe
to give
he means double headers over half the days,
right,
instead of 7-inning double headers. I don't.
Is shorten the season playing 140 games over the same time period, or is it playing 140 games at the same pace just to give them a longer break?
Yeah, I don't know.
Pitch clock that exists, I assume it means just
shortening it more. I don't.
Rarely enforced.
You can't. Baseball is just one of those games you can't speed up.
It's slow. Like, it's a slow game. It always has been.
Always has been. Always will be. I mean, but that's pretty much. I mean, most sports too.
Yeah.
Like, how would you speed up an NFL game? Those are 3 hours long.
Yeah.
What, never stop the clock at all? Like, I mean, because even if you shorten, like the I don't want to say shot clock, that play clock, let's say you shorten it to like 20 seconds in between plays. Well, then you're just going to have more TV timeouts, more, it'll get longer.
That time will get filled by things that aren't.
Right. I don't think there's a way to shorten baseball. And I think the extra innings rule is dumb. They should go back. I mean, I don't think there's really any hardcore evidence it's really making games end faster.
Right.
Because you'll see it half of the games that go to extras. It's like, oh, the team up to bat in the top of the 10th, brings in the one guy who started on second, team in the bottom of the 10th does it. Like, all it takes is 2 fly balls and that guy's in.
Right. And it's like, there's already the built-in end of games. Like, it gets more likely to end each inning it goes on because of the pitching.
Right.
You don't have your ace closer. Oh, look who they're bringing in the 13th. Like,
right.
No, you're getting down. You're making guys pitch a couple innings that usually are,
sometimes you're throwing in the shortstop. Like,
right. Yeah. It's part of baseball. I don't really see the need for it. Robot umps feels like we're headed that way.
I hate it. I think, human error is a part of every sport. I just hate it. You got to live with it. I mean, you get calls that go your way sometimes you don't. But I'd be willing to bet over the course of a season, it probably comes out pretty even in calls that went for and against you. Incorrect ones that umps made.
Right.
Different in football because you only have 16 games. But like, when we're talking 162 games, I'm guessing that comes out pretty even.
I mean, it's quite literally a very big part of one of your positions in your sport, of a catcher being able to frame the strike zone. Like, your best guy, the guy who in the league who's the best at framing, but bats 210 and doesn't exactly have the best pop time. Like, he's getting ran on every once in a while, but he can frame. Like, that guy's still very valuable.
Right.
You do this, all of a sudden his career is over.
Yeah, I don't like that one either.
And the last one's kind of trading draft picks.
Love it. No reason not to.
Right?
Yeah. I just think the issue is, like, I wonder if they're worried about how many, trades they're going to have to process because,
right.
Oh, Brewers send their 24th, 36th, 1st, 8th, 10th, send like 30 draft picks to the,
Well, I'll tell you why they can't be that worried about that. Is because players are literally allowed in this league to be traded for themselves, because you can just player to be named later. Right. If they're worried about the complicated nature of processing trades, that wouldn't be a thing. I forget who it was. that got traded for himself, but it's very funny that happened.
But yeah, I don't see how that's or why that's not a rule yet.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, speaking of MLB, we said last week how I was the hottest gambler in the world. Baseball is. I was just seeing the Matrix, those lines. Little bit of a hiccup. I rocketed all the way up to like up 5.5. When I had a 1-4 day yesterday, so I'm back to about up 2 3/4 units. Still up. As long as I'm up, I'll be happy. But both got a couple of picks for you for Thursday today. I'm going Angels and Tigers over 10 plus 128. They're both just trotting out second rate pitchers. I've moved it up a little bit. I believe it was 9 or 9.5. The Diamondbacks really lost me a lot of money over the last couple of days. I kept just betting on the Padres over them, and they kept either beating them or staying in it. But if there's a team that's going to bankrupt me, I'm fine betting that it's going to be the Diamondbacks. So I'm going Phillies -3 at the Diamondbacks plus 170. Bubble's going to pop. I mean, they're not just going to rattle off 9 to 10 for the Diamondbacks. And I got not that many games tomorrow, so I had to get a little creative. Got Woody on the mound tomorrow for the Brewers. So I got the Cardinals under 2.5 runs. As a team, that's plus 120.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I bet Brewers and Cardinals as well. I'm taking the Brewers -3. Haven't done a lot of betting on the home team.
Yeah.
Not a lot of rhyme or reason to it. I don't know. Thought about going 3.5, but at least if I get 3, there's that chance of a push if something goes bad. So that clocks in at 185. And then Tigers at home against the Angels. And Tigers -1.5. I mean, they're starting the lesser of two evils, I guess you want to say. That clocks in at plus 205. That game's pretty much a 50-50. I mean, they were both minus odds to win. So.
I think both pitchers have an ERA with a 6 handle starting it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then final game, Astros at the Royals. I took the Royals money line at plus 165. You know, football starting up. You got Mahomes backing them as the owner, and little Mahomes magic in there.
It's no longer Tom Brady bringing the magic to Tampa Bay.
Although I do have one other bet which needs to be addressed right now. And I wish I could credit the guy. I saw a tweet. It was the last time the Bucks won the NBA championship, the Cowboys won the next Super Bowl, and the last time the Suns lost an NBA championship, the Cowboys won the next Super Bowl. So Cowboys are a lock.
Oh yeah.
Betting the house on it. Actually took out a second mortgage.
Yeah, responsibly bet the mortage on that one.
Yep. Remember, call the gambling hotline.
1-800 gambler. But this isn't gambling. This is free money.
Right.
Rolling into the NFL here, kind of continuing our preseason top 10s kind of we've been doing. We did our quarterbacks, we did our running backs. This week we have our wide receivers top 10. As a reminder, this is this year only, 2021. If we are starting a team, what wide receiver would I want this year? And I kind of alluded to this, I think, in our Propapalooza on Monday, that I thought he was the best wide receiver in the league. And that's DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, he's just done it with 2 pretty high-level quarterbacks, but doing it with 2 quarterbacks, I think, really shows you just pure talent.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to do number 1 and 2 right here, back to back. Because there was a little internal debate. I also went D-Hop. although he's done it with 2 high-level QBs, he did get Kyler when Kyler was pretty raw.
It's
And,
true.
you know, I mean, obviously Kyler over the last 2 years now has developed quite a bit, and assuming he's going to continue to develop, but put him at number 1 for the same reason over Devontae Adams. We've only ever seen him do it with Rodgers, and that's, you know, because these rankings are all about us starting a new team. Like, I'm going to go with the guy who's done it on multiple teams versus, like, I'm confident in saying that Devontae Adams would be good on any team in the NFL.
It was definitely a question 2, maybe 3 seasons ago. At this point, just too much consistency.
Right.
He would be the touchdowns.
He'd be elite on any team, but personally, if I'm starting a team and I got to pick a wideout, I'm going D-Hop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exact reasons you're saying is why Devontae is my number 2 as well. Seems pretty clear. Just the touchdown numbers that he turns in and year out are hard to argue against. But touchdowns, not always the strong suit of my number 3, but still the most physically imposing wide receiver in the league. Julio Jones. Don't care how many times he's tackled within the 5. He still makes catches that shouldn't have any business even gracing his fingertips, and he somehow comes down with it over 1, 2, 3 defenders. He's new team, so we'll find out. See what that 2 quarterback theory. See if he can keep it going with Tannehill, but I think he will. So he's my 3.
Especially because, like, you know, they can't double cover him every play. I mean, because you got AJ Brown lining up on the other side. Like, but yeah, you know, I was really thinking about this when I was looking at my rankings earlier. Like, this one will probably have the most, like, variance. Yeah. Because I feel like there's just so, you know, because there's always 3 wide receivers on the field at any time. And because I'm going a completely different route. I love the guy. He torched my Packers for years. Thank God he went to the AFC, and it's Stephon Diggs. Yeah. I love Stephon Diggs. He's done it with, you know, Josh Allen but previously, you know, Kirk and
even Case Keenum.
Right. And through all that, he's still produced. Yeah. I mean, if I'm starting a team, that's a guy I would love to have on my roster.
I think there'll be a lot of variance in that bottom 5, but I got Diggs 4. So
you do?
We're in lockstep here. Right after Julio. I just don't led the league in receiving last year. It was a very high. It just wasn't quite the heights that I've seen Julio reach, and I think that he can replicate again this year. But yeah, no, he took that step last year for sure.
So my number 4 is a guy that he's at 4 because of the leap I think he's gonna take, and that's DK Metcalf.
Wow.
I just think, you know, physical specimen. I mean, we saw that obviously he didn't qualify for the 100-meter.
Right, but
he went out and did it, and I mean, I guess in track terms, he was quite a ways behind first, but you know, when you're talking 0.2 of a second behind, you know, the fastest guy in the world.
He only stood out because of his size, not because he was that much slower than anyone else.
Yeah, I think there will be another big leap. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts to steal, or if he steals a little more targets from, you know, Lockett. And I think he'll be a force to be reckoned with this year, and saw quite a few glimpses of it last year. So
so my 5 is a guy I think probably could have qualified in that 100, and that's Tyreek Hill. Obviously, hard to gauge. He's only ever played for the most talented quarterback, you know, maybe ever seen. But still, it's not just speed, which was the perception of him even just a few years ago. But some of the catches he makes are just good no matter where the ball is. Like, there was a clip from training camp where it was like, wait, he's doing this now? Like, He's not just like torching a guy. He's like doing a little comeback back shoulder down on the hip level in that like right at the goal line, like number 5 for me. Yeah, you could make an argument that's like, well, put him on, the Vikings. Like, would he just be doing what Diggs was doing with the Vikings, or would he, be a little bit less because he doesn't have that quarterback who's going to hit him right in the breadbasket lane, or he's flying down the field at those speeds. But
It's a chance you're taking.
yeah, I mean, you don't even need to just throw it. If I want him on my team, and just those little shovel passes to him are
Right.
so dangerous in their own right. So
Yeah. I think the league will be really scared, and the league's hoping Mecole Hardman doesn't develop
yeah,
into an elite wideout because he's got a set of wheels on as well.
yeah,
and
that's terrifying.
that would just be unfair. So at my number 5, this is where I'm slotting Julio. To me, I just never understood how a man with his size just couldn't score the football.
Yeah,
I mean, like you'd think the red zone target. Because I mean, their tight end play is, I mean, obviously early in his career, Tony Gonzalez was there, but like, I mean, last year Hayden Hurst was there. Back. I mean,
Hooper for a while.
Right. You'd think with that size, I just never put 2 and 2 together why he's not able to find the end zone more often. So that's why he slots down to number 5 on my list.
Number 6 for me is, this feels like a little bit of jump for him. I feel like he's earned it. It's Allen Robinson. If you're gonna kind of build a wide receiver in a lab, I think you'd come close to something like Allen Robinson. Not Julio sized, not like tight end sized, but big, fast, strong, very sure-handed. He's, the whole package. And, has performed through some questionable Mitch Trubisky quarterbacking.
Yeah. My number 6, I seem to be kind of favoring some younger guys here because my number 6, I'm slotting in Justin Jefferson. I mean, you look against single coverage last year, his rookie year, ranked first in yards per target, and was the number 2 overall receiver in single coverage as a rookie. And I mean, that's playing on a Kirk Cousins led offense again, serviceable quarterback, but what's he doing if he's on Green Bay? What's he doing if he's on Kansas City? I mean, and that might just be me being too optimistic that he's going to have some massive leap in his sophomore year. But even those single coverage stats, I'm totally cool building an offensive wide receiving core again or with him.
Definitely. Number 7 was big question mark. I didn't even know where I would end up putting him at the start of this list, but the facts are the facts. If you 2 short years ago, broke the single season receptions record, you're on my top 10. So Michael Thomas is at 7. Drama, a little bit of trade talks, a little bit of injury, but like the talent's clearly there. He doesn't drop the ball. He's super athletic. He's put up the best season outside of maybe Julio of guys I've mentioned so far. So he's number 7 for me.
Yeah. At my number 7, this is where I am slotting Allen Robinson. Kind of like what you said, just like physically, just there. I mean, specimen. Doing it in a Chicago offense that for the last decade has been laughable.
Keeping it to a decade is very generous of you.
Yeah. I guess pretty much since Walter Payton retired.
So number 8 is a kind of a risk for me. He's kind of the reason not the reason, but the beneficiary of when Julio wouldn't get those touchdowns. I got Calvin Ridley at 8, and I'm going to surprise, although there's not one on my list, spoiler alert, mention the Steelers here. I think he's in a very similar spot to, let's say, 3 years ago, when the last year of Antonio Brown in Pittsburgh, you would probably guess that this year Juju would be on this list based on his performance as a rookie in that offense. But when Antonio Brown left and Juju stepped into that wide receiver one role, his stats stayed very much the same and even went down a little bit, despite an increase in targets, because that's a very different position to be that wide receiver one rather than that two. And he's still a very good wide receiver, but not quite what he was or what people thought he would be. Calvin Ridley very much in that same situation right now, with Julio being gone. I think he's a little bit better. He's not such a solo focus with them, bringing in. I don't know. I'm blanking on his name. Tight end.
Pitts.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts. So Ridley obviously the one, but Pitts is a better two than the Steelers had at that time. So he won't have like just total double coverage all the time. But I'm gonna bet that he does overcome and can become a very effective wide receiver one.
So my next, we're at H, right?
I did my yes.
Okay. So AJ Brown. Just another big-bodied guy. You feel comfortable throwing the ball up that he's coming down with it. He's been doing it with Tannehill, which again, we both have high respect for Tannehill and his play, but we also both didn't consider him a top 10 quarterback. So,
Sure.
He's been doing it with, I'd say for sure an above average quarterback, but still not that elite level quarterback play.
Do the Titans have the best top 3 skill position players in the league?
I think so.
I think it's by a lot.
Yeah.
Because
who would compete?
It would have to be the Chiefs. I don't know who that third is, but you do Kelsey and Hill.
Right. I mean,
yeah, then Devontae and Aaron Jones, but to find that third is, and when that third is AJ Brown, who, it's very in or close to the top 10.
I mean, it's not really close, but I guess Evans, Godwin, and Antonio Brown, if he plays this year like he did at the end of last year.
Right, yeah.
I still don't really think it's close, but it's got to be up there for one of the big trios.
Yeah, I don't think
the Packers. It's Devontae.
It's
Aaron
that third
Jones,
player. It's the third player where it falls off. Like,
right.
No one's third is going to be as good as AJ Brown is.
Right.
Yep. But so I'm at number 9. This is where I have DK Metcalf.
Okay.
I still think it's a leap for him. He was very good last year. He wasn't top 10 last year, so I still project not quite as much of a jump as you do, but I do see him cementing himself as a top 10 receiver this year.
I remember what I was gonna say. At my 9, I've made him fall enough, but it's just the fact that I think he's a little bit of a product of Mahomes, and that'd be Tyreek Hill. I mean, again, still top 10. Like no real doubt about that. But I'm just not confident on how many other teams he would be produce at nearly the level he is. Because at least once a game, he still is wide open by about 10 yards and he's getting hit for a 50, 60-yard bomb. But like outside of that, I think the fact that Mahomes can put balls where most people can't, I think that's really what makes him put up elite level numbers.
Yeah, I don't think the Chiefs have any plans to let us find out what he would look like without Mahomes. So rounding out my top 10 is another young guy. I put Justin Jefferson in there. I have him taking a leap as well. He just looks really good.
So I had drafted him in my dynasty league. I'm in those first like 3 weeks. I'm like, they're not even like playing him. Is he looking that bad in practice? But then I come to find out it was just a grooming process, seeing as they didn't have a preseason. And by week 6, I'm like, all right, I'm loving this kid. Like,
I mean, I have him in the keeper league we're in together, so
yeah,
we're both benefiting from his rookie year.
So my final one is going to be Michael Thomas. Kind of dropped him. I guess it's like, I mean, product of Breeze / when Breeze's level of play went down, Thomas's kind of did too, which I guess is to be expected. But yeah, I don't, just kind of the whole Saints situation going on, trade talks. It's like, why would they want to trade him if he was that much of a stud? Like, I don't know. It just kind of culmination of things factored in me.
I think it's trying to be good for him right now. Like pretty much anywhere he goes, you would be like, oh, wait a minute, like this could be like really good for that team.
Right.
No, but speaking of fantasy, that's a guy who 2 years ago was my number 1 pick in an inaugural dynasty league. So
you're almost
I'm hoping, but yeah,
I wouldn't mind a little trade to the pack.
Sure. They can have Khan.
So my most notable one is a guy who I love. And that's Mike Evans. I just couldn't put him on the list. And I don't know if there's just too many guys down there now where he's not like the guy.
Right.
I'm wondering if that's it, where his production's kind of fallen off. But I guess, who do you think your most notable, like a guy I can't believe I didn't put him on there?
I didn't have AJ Brown on mine. He was very good, but kind of the 1 year, it's, do you believe this is like growth, or is this just overperforming?
Yeah.
Is it a beneficiary of having a team that the defense have to put 8 guys in a box, 7 guys in a box? Right. Is you have like 2,000-yard rusher on your team? But yeah, I'd rather err on the side typically of believing in a guy rather than picking it apart, saying like, oh, he's a product of this or that. But just not really room on my top 10 for him, especially when you look at the first guys off being either like DK Metcalf or Justin Jefferson, who I think put up very similar numbers, performances on when they're playing on, worse or similar situations. And because they're younger, I think it's more likely to be, not that AJ Brown is old, but it's more likely to be growth rather than just like, although you never know. Swan Diggs was always good, but he wasn't really great until this year.
Right.
Which I guess can go to show you maybe sometimes all it takes is a quarterback. So yeah, probably the top 10 with kind of the most leeway. Like there's probably 20 guys that you wouldn't really blink at if they were on a top 10 list.
Yeah, I mean, like you had guys a lot higher than I did, and I had guys a lot higher than you did. But like when you said it, I wasn't like, oh, like that's dumb. You know, like that's a bad take. Like it just comes down to what you value in a wideout. And I think young guys are more likely to make bigger leaps than those guys who are like 26, 27. And I'm willing to bet on that, which is why I put Metcalf and Jefferson so high.
Right. Like even if I was like, hey, my number 10 is Robert Woods, and I'll tell you why. You'd be like, interesting choice, but like, well, maybe like.
Right.
So yeah, that is our episode for this week. We'll come at you on Monday with more baseball bets, more news stories. Kind of still slogging along till football season, but it's preseason. It's only 3 weeks this year. It's you can almost see the light at the end of the tunnel. We're getting there. Yeah. So thanks for listening, and we will see you guys on Monday.